Hello everybody, this is Andrew Roeth with my presentation for John Drake's English 2 class. My presentation will be on the first Transcontinental Railroad and the effects it had on the country, its economy, and its people. The 1,907 miles of continuous railroad was constructed between 1863 and 1869. The railroad connected the Pacific coast at San Francisco Bay with the existing U.S. rail network at Council Bluffs, Iowa, on the Missouri River. The railroad was built by the following three private companies: Western Pacific, who built 132 miles worth of the tracks; Central Pacific, who built 690 miles worth of the tracks; and Union Pacific, who built 1,085 miles worth of the tracks. The last spike, also known as the Golden Spike, was driven down on May 10, 1869 in Promontory Summit, Utah. It was considered the world's first live mass media event. The hammers and spike were wired to the telegraph line, so each hammer stroke would be heard as a click at telegraph stations nationwide. One of the most significant and ambitious American technological feats of the 19th century, the Transcontinental Railroad served as North America's vital link for trade, commerce, and travel that joined the eastern and western halves of the late 19th century United States. It brought the states of Nevada, California, Oregon, and the Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, and Washington territories firmly into the Union and made settlement of the West much more rapid and inexpensive. The railroad basically established the nation's economic infrastructure for the future. Most of the capital investment needed to build the railroad was generated by selling government-guaranteed bonds, granted per mile of completed track. The railroad was built almost entirely by hand. Workers drove spikes into mountains, filled the holes with black powder, and blasted through rock. Hand carts moved the drift from cuts to fills, and bridges were constructed to ford streams. Workers of the railroad included Irish and German immigrants, former Union and Confederate soldiers, freed slaves, and more than any other, Chinese immigrants. Explosions, freezing temperatures, and avalanches in the High Sierra killed hundreds. When the Chinese workers struck for higher pay, a Central Pacific executive withheld their food supplies until they agreed to go back to work. At one point during construction, 8,000 of the 10,000 men working for Central Pacific were Chinese. The widespread fraud and abuse surrounding the Transcontinental Line resulted in the greatest scandal of the 19th century. Union Pacific executives created a construction company called Credit Mobilier of America and hired the company to build its portion of the rail line. Since the Union Pacific stockholders also owned Credit Mobilier stock, the executives essentially hired themselves to do the work. And in 1868, the return on investment for shares of Credit Mobilier stock was 280%. The job cost taxpayers $72 million, even though the line only cost $53 million to build. When members of Congress began questioning the shady arrangement, Congressman Oaks Ames was assigned to distribute stock options and free railroad passes in exchange for silence. James Garfield, future president, was one person to receive these options. The press exposed the scandal 3 years later, forcing Congress to investigate. Over 30 congressmen admitted to receiving stock options. Ames was censured for his roles, but nobody else was punished. Technically, no laws were broken since Congress conveniently passed no legislation outlawing such shady dealings. Nevertheless, Americans were enraged by this wasteful and unethical abuse of their tax dollars. Even as the Transcontinental Railroad brought the new country together, it brought change to the world of Native Americans. The tracks ran through a number of tribal territories, bringing into conflict cultures that held very different views of the land and how it might be used and lived on. The railroad also brought an increasing number of European Americans west, and by 1880, almost all the Plain Indians had been gathered on reservations. The railroad acted as a permanent corridor for the bison and helped the demise of the bison in the West. In the 1850s, it was estimated the bison population to be anywhere from 30 to 60 million. hunters from the east would arrive via the Transcontinental Railroad and kill the bison with their .50 caliber rifles for sport and not use the meat or hide. By the end of the 1800s, only 300 buffalo were left in the wild. General Henry Sheridan saw the killing of the bison as a good thing, saying that the white man was destroying the Native Americans' commissary. Before the completion of the railroad, the estimated time and cost of getting from New York to San Francisco was several months and up to $1,000. After the railroad was built, that changed to just about a week's time and as little as $65. Ticket prices were $136 for first class in a Pullman sleeping car, $110 for second class, and $65 for third or immigrant class seats on a bench. The Transcontinental Railroad played a huge part in shaping America into what it is today. It changed the course of America and really was the country's best feat of the 19th century. Well, thanks for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed it.